Abraham Lincoln once said, "The worst things you can do for those you love are the things that they could do and should do for themselves." As I was reading the great UCLA's basketball coach's book on mentoring, he elaborated on those words from Lincoln. John Wooden said these words: "Lincoln fiercely believed in self-sufficiency and the maturity and character that struggles and hardships can bring. This lesson is so important for teachers and parents. It is only natural for us to want to shield our students and our children from anything that might possibly cause them hurt or to suffer, even to be uncomfortable. But some degree of pain is necessary for a person to become suited for the responsibilities that lay ahead. Pain is necessary." Those are true but tough words to swallow. Welcome to the 260 Journey, and a topic that is not often discussed in today's culture. The writer of Hebrews speaks of a classroom that is often overlooked but more so avoided. It's the classroom of suffering. Father God was doing exactly what Lincoln and Wooden spoke about with his son Jesus. Listen to Hebrews 5:8. "Although he was a son, he learned obedience from the things which he suffered." Learning and suffering going together. These are words that we don't normally associate together, but they are integral to the life of Jesus, and the learning and suffering are partners. Malcolm Muggeridge is one of the great British Christian writers. He didn't come to faith until later in life, and his words on suffering and learning are so good. Muggeridge said it like this: "Contrary to what might be expected, I look back on experiences that at the time seemed especially desolating and painful with particular satisfaction. Indeed, I can say with complete truthfulness that everything I've learned in my 75 years in this world, everything that has truly enhanced and enlightened my experience, has been through affliction and not through happiness." Christians fighting sex trafficking is heroic and noble. It's something we should be pouring resources in to eradicate. The person who really started this back in the early 1900s was a missionary to India named Amy Carmichael. She was the originator of the Safe House, rescuing young girls at a time that the world didn't even know about the horrific exploitation of them. She did this at the risk even of her own life. But in 1931, Amy Carmichael was badly injured in a fall, which left her bedridden much of the time until her death. Amy Carmichael died in India in 1951 at the age of 83. When she was injured, Amy broke her leg, twisted her spine in the fall. The injury left her bedridden for the remainder of her life in constant pain. Rarely did she sleep through an entire night without waking up to the pain. Her final 2 decades was nothing but pain and in bed. However, it didn't stop her from using her gift of writing. While bedridden, Amy wrote 16 books that are filled with awe-inspiring revelation, all coming from a fall, sleepless nights, and back pain. We could learn from her suffering. Helen Keller said, "Although the world is full of suffering, it is also full of the overcoming of it." Those are the learners. See, learning and suffering, we usually don't put together, but Hebrews does. We try to avoid pain instead of learning from pain, and thereby we waste our pain. A.W. Tozer was spot on when he said, "Before God can use a man greatly, he must first wound him deeply." Parnell Bailey visited an orange grove where an irrigation pump had broken down. The season was unusually dry, and some of the trees were beginning to die for lack of water. The man giving the tour then took Bailey to his own orchard, where irrigation was used sparingly. He said these trees could go without rain for another 2 weeks. He said, "What I did was this. When they were young, I frequently kept water from them. This hardship and pain caused them to send their roots deeper into the soil in search of moisture. Now my orange trees are deepest rooted trees in the area. While all others are being scorched by the sun, my trees are finding moisture at a greater depth." That's what happens in pain. We go deeper into God. Pain brings us deeper so that we are not hurt by the pain, but we have learned to draw our resources from a place of depth. Charles Spurgeon said, "A clay pot sitting in the sun will always be a clay pot. It has to go through the white heat of the furnace to become porcelain." I want to be porcelain. I want to come out of the struggle with depth and a value that wasn't there before the struggle and pain. A man one time found a cocoon of the emperor moth and took it home to watch it emerge. One day, a small opening appeared, and for several hours, the moth struggled but couldn't seem to force its body past a certain point. Deciding something was wrong, the man took scissors, snipped the remaining bit of the cocoon, and the moth emerged easily. its body large and swollen, the wings small and shriveled. He expected that in a few hours the wings would spread in their natural beauty, but they did not. Instead of developing into a creature free to fly, the moth spent its life dragging around a swollen body with shriveled wings. See, the constricting cocoon and the struggle necessary to pass through the tiny opening are God's way of forcing fluid from the body into the wings. The merciful snip was in reality cruel. Sometimes the struggle is exactly what we need to remove the fluid so we can begin to fly. Robert Hamilton's poem called Suffering sums this all up. He says these words, "I walked a mile with pleasure, she chatted all the way, but left me none the wiser for all she had to say. I walked a mile with sorrow, and never a word said she, but oh, the things I learned from her when sorrow walked with me." Thanks for joining the 260 Journey.